I just finished making a work in Atlanta right before starting Pavement that had this group of guys that were just really kind of raw, and I just really loved their energy. So I was like, oh, you know, I think I need to bring some more men into this project in particular. And there was something about not only that new energy, but the excitement from them and the respect that I felt like everybody had for each other that made the work just happen really quickly and easily. I always usually refer to the dancers as collaborators because they are key collaborators in the process. Working with David Dorfman for several years as a dancer or collaborator, depending on how he chooses to view us. That process was so collaborative and respectful that I tried to bring as much of that into my process as possible. A lot of David's rehearsals and my rehearsals have been spent just sitting and talking, no dancing actually happening. We just will sit and talk about the work, the subject matter.
43 and 1 half, 178.
One interesting thing about improv is when do you want it to be looking like improv, and what does it even mean when you say that you want it to look like improv? You know, because if that is a qualitative exploration, how honest are we really being to what our body can do in terms of our range of exploration, which ideally improvisation, unless you're really trying to stay in a certain kind of codified form, you should be ideally open-ended to kind of do that. When I'm playing with different subject matter, I try to approach that in different ways. There are moments that are improvised in Pavement that people don't know are improvised, and there's moments that aren't, that can seem that they are totally improvised. And I like that. So for me, it's playing with that. I think sometimes the conversation that we're hoping to spark in some ways is simply just based on how we're presenting bodies in space. I'm curious to think about, you know, it's come up a lot, I think, in a lot of the conversations I have about my work, but the history that people come into the theater with. So separate from even your history that extends from childhood to present day, or your family's history, but even the history that you're walking into the theater with. Because I think the history that you've experienced within that day is also heavily influenced by then that family history and what that experience is and what maybe that privilege is, depending on who we're talking to, right? And there's a whole larger conversation about privilege and people's perception of a percentage of privilege, right? Because when we're looking at privilege, everyone in some ways has an element of privilege. It's just how we're perceiving a percentage of that privilege. And I think it's interesting for me as a maker to be thinking about how I can set up situations that can address that in some ways and or get people to listen and talk, if not to one another, talk and then hear what someone else is saying and see how that affects their perception.